1 in 5 Americans suffer from chronic pain. Many are now using CBD for relief.
Activists are hoping pot could be legalized nationwide by the end of 2019.
When you look at premium cannabis, the Illinois House approved legalizing recreational marijuana.
Welcome to The Budding Report, a weekly show centered around all things cannabis. Please join us in welcoming our host, Charles Horton, and his co-host, Melissa Nasits, as they share the latest in cannabis news, conduct interviews with top leaders in the cannabis space, and promote some of the latest in science and innovation. And now to our host, Charles Horton.
Happy New Year, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Budding Report. Melissa, how are you doing?
I'm good. Happy to be celebrating the holidays and looking forward to 2021 with a lot of hope riding on a very good year.
I'm looking forward to a better 2021 myself, and you know, it sure has been an interesting 2020.
Say the least.
I'm looking forward. So we're actually filming this in advance, so it's not Christmas yet, but the air date for this is January 6th. But I am looking forward to Inauguration Day because the crazy posts that I'm getting are pretty wild. We just need to get that done and moved on with and accept that that's the case.
I'm ready for it to be over. I was ready for it to be over before it was even over. Let's just put it that way. It's been absolutely insane. I mean, everything about this year has hit on all cylinders of just crazy train. And so I'm looking forward to things kind of mellowing out, stabilizing, and us moving forward. We've got the vaccine getting distributed. Whether you're for it or against it, I think that that's the first step in the right direction. So follow the science, right?
Chris, how are you doing today? How's life in Austin?
Austin's doing great, Charles. So weather is great. We're just getting ready for the Christmas holidays coming up in about a week. But obviously, a couple weeks ago, when this episode's being aired.
Now, I was reading posts that there was a different set of electors that were going to vote for Trump instead of Biden, and that when it came down to it in the House, when they went to accept the elector votes, you know, it'd be different electors voting. What do you think of that, Chris?
It doesn't look like that's going to happen. It doesn't look like people are going to betray democracy in that way. But I do think it's concerning because if you did have enough state legislatures that were willing to go along with Trump and put up alternate slates of electors, and if you had a morally depraved Congress, then you could have an authoritarian regime in this country. So that's something that I believe that Joe Biden's and his cabinet are going to need to think long and hard about in the next Congress, is how are we going to get legislation to protect our democracy.
And if the Senate doesn't flip, how are we going to have a cabinet for the Biden administration?
That's very true. It might have to be. He might have to put some Republicans in there to get the Mitch McConnell to approve it. But there's more than just that reason, of course, why the Senate needs to flip. Our show, Budding Report, is all about cannabis, and that will become legal right away if the Senate flips. So go vote.
Good redirection. Christopher, I hear there's snow where you are.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. In Indianapolis for one more week, and I guess I couldn't escape without a nice, robust, snowy morning. So hopefully not more to come while I'm here, but you never know.
Well, it's good to have you all on. Our guests today will be Leslie Bocskor from Electrum Partners and Thomas Schnakenberg from Bloom Hemp. We look forward to having them on. Wanted to let you know about them in case they pipe up during our news sections. So speaking of the news, Chris, what's in the news?
Well, the news that just kind of came out last week is that the federal government has unfortunately extended its marijuana manufacturing monopoly to Ole Miss in the heart of cannabis country, Mississippi, which just recently approved medical marijuana for the first time. So I'm just when I say that. But Ole Miss has been producing some really horrible marijuana. It's probably akin to the swag that people maybe 20, 30 years ago in high school or college. And it's just not sufficient for the type of research that we need to determine the medicinal value of cannabis. And it's really unfortunate because our federal government has lots of manufacturers applying for licenses, and the DEA just won't approve those. So they're just continuing to give this manufacturing monopoly to Ole Miss, to Mississippi. Now, there is some light at the end of the tunnel on this. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, what was more in the news was the MORE Act passing, the Legalization Act in the House of Representatives. But what kind of under the radar was the Medical Marijuana Research Act, which one of the sponsors is actually a prohibitionist. But he's a doctor, and he does say that he wants research. So the good thing about that act is that researchers can get it from state legal cannabis dispensaries, which are going to have the high THC percentages that is equivalent to the type of THC that's available in the market. So there could be good research done there. But of course, I sound like an empty refrain, a broken record. It all depends on the Senate, and we're going to have to win that runoff for things like the Medical Marijuana Research Act to pass and for the MORE Act to pass. But one other thing we want to talk about is that this is just total hypocrisy in the federal government, that they're only giving a manufacturing monopoly to Ole Miss, that they're basically saying that our hands are tied because marijuana is on Schedule 1, so we can't do any research on it. But as Dr. Shaw brought up this morning, Marinol, which is synthetic THC, has been available since 1985 and is only Schedule 3. So I want to throw it to Dr. Shaw to kind of illuminate us on what's going on here.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Certainly. So this has been an ongoing thorn in my side, that I see this very apparent hypocrisy, and not too many individuals are aware of it, especially in kind of the cannabis movement. So Marinol is the trade name for a drug called dronabinol, and this was approved by the FDA in 1985, initially for nausea related to cancer. It was subsequently indicated in 1992 for appetite stimulation for HIV/cancer patients as well. So there's a long history of FDA approved medication, and it is and always will be pure THC that happens to be synthetic. And so to me, this kind of really betrays the hypocrisy involved, where we hear this constant lip service about the inability to evaluate declassifying or removing cannabis from the schedule because there's insufficient research, when by default, in order for Marinol to be approved as an FDA medication, it would have to demonstrate such clinical research. And I provided, and for our viewers, there's a link if they would like to read about this later from the FDA that actually has a summarized clinical trial that they used for the approval initially. So I feel that the fact that this initially was a Schedule 2 back in '86, and then DEA descheduled it to a Schedule 3 in '99, and yet we're still having this discussion. The more people that know about this, perhaps the more we can really push this issue of hypocrisy forward so it gets the appropriate attention it needs.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. That was really interesting. Chris, I did have one question for you on the first topic. If a research institution that is in a non-legal state, once the bill passes, wants to get cannabis from another state, will they be able to do that, or still not? They'll have to be in a state and only buy from that state?
Yeah, I think you would have to be a researcher in the state that it's legal. So the funny thing about this is that I don't think you could actually do the necessary research in Mississippi because it was illegal there until the Medical Act just passed. But they have a federal authorization to do the actual manufacture there. So it's definitely a quagmire of regulations and problems with the different regulatory structures in these different states, and some states just having it outright illegal.
Lots of nice issues to fix in the upcoming legislative sessions. Okay, we will be right back with Thomas Schnakenberg. See you right after this break.
Hello, coming to you from the outdoors where I do my heat training, and I did my repeats on the hills. It's actually pretty empty, but it's kind of close to 90 degrees. So that's when I squeeze in whatever I can, but I'm actually here to share what Simply Start, Simply Satisfy is. So this organic hemp oil, this is the serum Simply Start. and you can take it twice a day or once. I already took both of them in this morning, so now it's lunchtime. Real quick and easy, yummy, delicious, 30 calories. The other one is Simply Satisfy. So it's a spray and also 3 sprays. You could do it once a day or twice a day. Again, I did it this morning. I'm doing it now at lunch. It helps you take care of your health and wellness. So learn more about them. Remember, 3 simple changes on how you can incorporate into your life. You can learn more at the link below. So stay safe and keep moving, keep training, and take care of your spirit, mind, and body.
And we're back. We're welcoming Thomas Schnakenberg. He is the owner of Bloom Distribution. So he founded Bloom Hemp in 2018, passionate about helping the community live happier, healthier lives through the use of hemp products, which we love to hear. We are here for that as well. Specializes in contract manufacturing of hemp and CD business, raw materials, and sourcing. So he holds a BA degree in marketing from the University of Houston. So he is a Texan as well. So we're excited to have you. So
yeah, but he's from Houston.
So is that really Texas?
Dallas and Houston, they just don't get along.
Oh, no, that's not true. But so tell us, how did you get involved in the first place with CBD and manufacturing CBD and hemp?
Yeah, Melissa, Charles, thanks for having me on. And yeah, Charles is right. Houston and Dallas has a little bit of a rivalry there, but I moved out to Colorado, Denver to be specific, about 8-9 years ago. So I'm a little separated from it, and I enjoy Dallas just as much as Houston now. So my Houston friends might kind of disown me for that, but it is what it is. But yeah, back to your question. So I got started in hemp and CBD about 5 years ago. As a lot of people know, CBD and hemp kind of really took off here in Colorado in the beginning. Not many people though knew what it was outside of the state. And so we had a lot of connections with farmers and processors out here. And in the beginning, brands would give us a call and we would connect the dots for them. We would introduce them to the farmers. We'd introduce them to the processors so they could take those raw materials and make their products. And at the time, these products were very, very simple. They were MCT-based products with CBD raw materials, and that was about it. But as we kept going, I mean, our business at the time slowly expanded, and we brought on our contract manufacturing arm because why not? At the time, we knew how to make the products that we're selling to customers, and we had brands calling us left and right. Hey, we need a tincture, we need a lotion, we need this, we need that. So instead of just giving them the raw materials to go make themselves, we would then start making these products for it. So a lot of the brands on the market today, real popular ones, big ones out there, we helped get off the ground and we helped develop their product portfolio. And so that was essentially the start of it leading into Bloom right there. So then once we got into Bloom, we kind of started doing some other things. But that was the start of it for you.
I'm going to forgive you moving to Dallas. I think, moving to Denver. Dallasites do like people from Denver, even though we don't from Houston. So I'm going to consider you forgiven. And I'm just being funny. People from Houston. I appreciate the love, then. I'm just being funny. People from Houston, we love you too. What are you doing to differentiate, Thomas, Bloom from the competition?
So back to kind of the contract manufacturing days and how we got started in the beginning. And what we were noticing, and I mentioned it before, was a lot of these products, these brands were just white labeling and creating a line of products that they thought customers wanted at the time, which they did. And they were very basic, though. They were just, 2 or 3 ingredients, but really no one knew what was going on with what they were getting. So our goal when I opened Bloom and started Bloom was to make something that was a little bit different than what was out there. I didn't want to just be another brand out there that was contract manufacturing from a big manufacturer that's pumping out 50, 60,000 tinctures a day and sending a third of them to this group, a third to this brand, and so on. So what we started doing was first we opened up our farm out here. So we started growing our own materials so we could control the supply chain. And not only did we just grow the material, we went the extra step and became one of the first USDA certified organic farms in the country, hemp farms in the country. And that's a lot of people say they grow organic hemp right now. You'll see it all over websites everywhere, but we were able to actually take the necessary steps, pay the extra money, and do all the necessary paperwork to get that USDA organic certificate. That now allows us to put the actual USDA logo on our products. And it's all backed by paperwork. So that was step one. Introduce a product, a raw material that was essentially a higher quality and created a higher standard for the products on the market. So we created that. We started growing our farm about 3 years ago, and we've been USDA certified organic ever since. So since we did that, then we also needed now to make our products a little bit better quality than, like I said, that MCT and just broad spectrum oil. So that's when we started our Bloom Essentials line. And the purpose of the Essentials line was to add different ingredients other than just CBD in a carrier oil to affect a specific ailment. So we came out with our Essentials line, which we have a calming tincture, which is great for as a sleep aid. And that contains lavender, California poppy extract, things that help towards sleep, and using CBD as a way to maximize those ingredients. We have a pain relief tincture, a digestive tincture, and roll-ons, topicals that are all geared towards specific ailments. So we got our Bloom Essentials line out there. And then on top of that, then we came out with a food product line that's hemp foods only. So we have hemp butters, we have sprouted hemp hearts, and that do not contain any cannabinoids. We call it non-cannabinoid. But it's for the users. We want to give people the opportunity to choose a product that fits them and isn't just taking a typical CBD product and hoping for the best. So that's pretty much, long story short, the differentiators of Bloom right there.
So I think our audience would like to know what and why is it so important to have a USDA organic certification for CBD products?
Yeah, thank you. I could definitely answer that, Christian. And so the biggest thing is there are a lot of good, I don't want to say you have to have the USDA certified organic, otherwise it's a terrible product, because there's a lot of good farms out there and there are a lot of good companies that are growing the right way without that certification. But from a marketing perspective and also for a user perspective, we want to give our customers the sense of mind that when they take our products, they are getting the best of the best. There's no pesticides in it, and everything that we put in the product is not only there for that. It's not only a great ingredient, but it's also backed by paperwork proving it's a great ingredient. And so that way, when a customer buys our product, they could go and see our certification, and they are certain that everything that goes into it is good for them. I can't tell you the number of products back in the day would test. They have pesticides in it, and after a couple weeks after taking it, now they find out they have a product that is loaded with pesticides. So that was kind of the purpose of the USDA certification for us, to really control that supply chain, but also provide our customers a product that they can trust, and it's backed by paperwork.
So, Thomas, tell us what Bloom Hemp has in store for 2021 now that we're in the new year.
Yeah, so we kind of built up in 2020 everything. Everyone knows what happened out here in 2020. And so just like everyone else, we're looking forward to the new year. But we got a lot of cool things going on. So the biggest one right now is we are expanding on our partnership with our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sunil Pai. He's coming in and he's going to be helping with formulations and really developing our product lines and helping us continue to push the limit on what we can do with our products. And then the other one is we have we're launching a pet company, and my partner Graham McGee, I think, is coming on here in a couple weeks. He's going to be talking a little bit more about that. So I'll let him fill you in on what's happening there, so I don't take all his glory there.
Well, Thomas, how has 2020 affected your business? Or have you been thriving, down? How's it been?
So our business has different tiers to it. We have our manufacturing. That was our roots, our manufacturing, contract manufacturing, bulk material sales. That side of it has dropped quite a bit, because overnight a lot of our customers that we were working with had contracts with airports, Macy's, Dillard's, things like that. So their POs overnight, and it was the NBA shutdown when kind of everything in the rest of the country shut down. So that night the NBA shut down, all of those POs got pulled because everything shut down in the country. And so when those got pulled, all of our POs got pulled on the manufacturing side. Having said that, things have recovered. We are starting to see the POs for distribution pick back up. So we are hopeful going into 21 that with this vaccine, that we will see that come back. But like I said, it's kind of a two-tiered company. Then we have the customer side of it, our website, Bloom Hemp. That picked up quite a bit when everything hit and shut down. People were more concerned about their health. They were worried about, more than any time, concerned about treating their body the right way to try and be as healthy as possible to avoid this terrible disease that's still going around. So we had the ebbs and flows like everybody, but all in all, we survived, and I think we came out of it stronger. It showed a lot of holes in the company that we needed to get filled, and we spent the time really building up the foundation, and so that way we can survive this. And we look at it as a group. My partner and my teammate, or all of our employees here, look at it as, if we survive this, we can survive anything. So we're going into 2021 very optimistic, and I think it's going to be a great year for us.
That's fantastic. I think if you can survive 2020, you can survive anything.
Trim the fat, right? Only the strong
That's
survive.
how everyone should look at it.
Well, Thomas, thank you so much for being on. You can go to our website, thebuddingreport.com, get any of our guests' contact information, reach out to them, send them an email, make a phone call, as we're not able to connect at trade shows and stuff these days. I know our guests are on here in order to connect with other people, so please reach out. And we'll be back with our next guest, Leslie, right after this quick message. Be right back.
Hello. Here on my lunch run in the middle of the heat, where I get my break really quick after training clients and leading some classes. I am taking my Simply Satisfy. It is 3 sprays, organic hemp. Next one is my Simply Start. You can take it twice a day or once a day. I already took my morning dose. I'm now taking my afternoon dose. One little yummy organic hemp. Check them out. Simply Generous. Helicopter. All right, time to go, Trina. Run down the hill. Bye-bye.
Well, now we're back with Leslie Bocskor. Although not live in the studio, we are happy to have him on the show. He is the executive chairman of Electrum Partners. So most folks in the cannabis industry, for any length of time, are going to be familiar with this next guest. By face, by name, his exuberant laugh, and immaculate 3-piece suits. His insights, expertise, global, exposure make him the man who, for policymakers, investors, and entrepreneurs go to for issues that need immediate fixing or future planning. So his far-reaching baking and entrepreneurial experience, bolstered with his knowledge of the cannabis industry, have been, unfathomable. So the domestic and international policy, finding your niche and investing opportunity. There just seems from seed to sale, there is a ton of information that he brings to not only our show, but to those that are working with him. So we're very excited to have him on the program. But again, I usually always kick this off with our guest and ask the first question is, what are the reasons that you chose cannabis and hemp? What drove you to this field?
So, I can't thank you guys enough for doing this at this time. It is more important now for people to be able to connect for business, professional reasons, etc., than any other time in the past. It's at the toughest times that is most important for us to be able to try to function and do our work. And if we can't try to do it at that time, well, then we're in real trouble. And so the fact that all of you are working to make this happen, I'm incredibly grateful for. Let me just start by saying that. So as it regards what brought me to the cannabis and hemp industry, it was really, it was both. Sometimes I'd say it was destiny and accidental at the same time. So I was one of the first investment bankers to focus on the internet and new media back in the mid to late 90s. That exposed me to the birth of a new, very large industry that was disrupting something in a massive way. From that, I did some research on other industries that I thought were going to be disruptive. I was looking at how the gaming industry would change and evolve into an online entertainment industry, or be part of an online entertainment industry. And to that, to do some research on that, if you're going to look into the gaming industry in any way, where do you go? You go to Vegas. As a native New Yorker, I came out here to do some research in 2008 and 2009. My wife and I spent the summers out here to become familiar with the industry while I was looking into it. And we decided that the quality of life looked like a change we would welcome. So we moved out to Vegas. When I got here, I saw that medical marijuana was actually a very big thing on the western part of the United States. Now, in New York, it was always the butt of a joke. Medical marijuana, what is that? That's what they do in California while they're, eating granola and doing yoga. But we got out here, we saw there was a lot more to it. I did some research, and I saw that according to Rand Corp and the United Nations in 2010, the black market for cannabis in the United States was 50% larger than all professional sports combined in the U.S. $42 billion a year versus $30 billion a year, 42 to 50 billion. And so that's the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball combined were substantially smaller than the black market for cannabis. That really got me to pay attention. I was doing a lot of research, and then by the time 2012 came along and Colorado and Washington passed recreational, that allowed me to take that moment, evaluate what I was doing, and start unwinding all of my other projects to focus on this exclusively. I say destiny because evidently I had started doing my research on the cannabis industry when I was 15 at a bus stop waiting for my public school bus to take me to school in northwestern New Jersey, and I smoked pot for the first time. I taught myself to snap my fingers on my left hand on that bus drive, and I fell in love with the plant from that point forward. I stopped smoking entirely in 1987 when I went to work in the financial industry, but I'd always known that the prohibition was based upon lies and disinformation and propaganda, and I had a tremendous affinity for it. Read books like The Emperor Wears No Clothes or The Emperor, etc., by Jack Herrera, and so it was destiny, and it was also just being in the right place at the right time, seeing the opportunity and realizing that I could not only work on something that would make a difference, help make the world a better place, that it would be unbelievably profitable to do it as well. So that's a very long answer to a short question.
But a great answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Leslie, I wanted you to know, we have something in common together. I, too, am known for my immaculate dress.
Well, you got the laugh portion in common. Let's go there. We'll say that.
So Melissa seemed like she was stunned there for a minute and didn't know how to react. It's like, is he kidding, or does he think he dresses really good? Yeah, I don't dress very good.
He's wearing a button down today, though. Look at you.
I can definitely.
I really like is that flannel? I really like the pattern.
It is flannel.
It's cold here, so I thought, flannel t-shirt. Why not? Well, Leslie, I love your story, but tell me about the middle, from the 15-year-old that did his initial amount of research, and then when you released all of your other projects to move specifically into this industry. What background basically prepared you to get into what you do now?
I started in Lehman Brothers in 1987. Actually, it was a pretty auspicious moment. I started there in August of 87, and I was able to watch the crash of October 1987 firsthand, seeing, people taking pictures of their monitors to show the market down so extensively. That gave me exposure to investment banking for small businesses, because Lehman Brothers had done a lot of capital formation for early stage businesses. And I said, that was an area I was very interested in. I liked the entrepreneurial experience. I've been entrepreneurial since I was a young man. I was, selling bubble yum and fireballs when I was in middle school, and I'd always been, merchant oriented. And so I came to the financial markets, saw there was an area I was passionate about, and went into the investment banking side of the business, assisting entrepreneurs in capital formation, assisting them in navigating the earliest parts of their business, which are the most treacherous. It's in those first few years that 99.7% of businesses die, in the first 3 years. And if you can survive those first 3 years and you have a viable business, obviously, that's when you can start to really get your legs under you. And so as an investment banker, I worked as an advisor regarding many of those issues that every entrepreneur faces: access to capital, velocity of capital, valuation and defense of the valuation, team building, being able to understand what the ultimate exit strategy will be for you, the entrepreneur, the founders, and the investors, because everybody gets in with, stars in their eyes. They start a business and they're thinking, oh, I'm going to start this business. I'll be able to pay myself a tremendous amount of money because it's going to be so profitable. And almost always it costs a lot more to run the business. There are many unforeseen challenges and nothing happens as quickly as you expect. A friend of mine used to say, all businesses are like those mirrors that say everything is farther away and smaller than it appears in the mirror. And so that's true of being an entrepreneur as well. And so I got involved in that side of it in the late 80s. I then ended up starting a small investment bank in the mid 90s after having been on the, as they say, the sell side of the business, starting a couple of businesses in the late 80s and early 90s. I then went to start a small investment bank. We focused on capital for small businesses, mezzanine financing, and more. I saw hundreds of internet business plans come across my desk back in the mid 90s when the total value of all publicly traded internet companies was under $500 million. I saw that valuation of public markets go from $500 million to 2.7 trillion in public market valuation, with just the top 280 companies inside of a 5-year period. I then, as that era started to wind down and become normalized, and the internet started to become part of the fabric of our business world, I then started looking at other industries. I was the CEO of a public company. I advised a couple of public companies, advised a couple of private companies, CEO of a private company that I was brought in to turn around. Those all went very well. And then I ended up doing this research on the gaming industry, because of when I looked at the casino industry, I said, wow, when that finally evolves into an online industry, the shift is going to be enormous and the opportunities will be unlike anything we've seen in a long time. I still believe I'm right. I just didn't anticipate that one person, Sheldon Adelson, would be able to stand in the way of an online casino industry in the United States so effectively, which he did. So when I was out here in Vegas and I came out here and I was still doing research on that, that's when I encountered the medical marijuana industry for the first time, and I started to do my research. And so I was really well positioned, having watched the birth of a major disruptive industry and what happens with all those new businesses coming up, what happens with all the entrepreneurs who have similar needs, what happens with all of the investors who have similar needs and interests, and how do you prepare to be positioned for that. What I didn't anticipate was another part of my background had given me the importance of understanding policy and the nexus of policy needs, political realities, and business issues, and how those three things can converge and either be in conflict or they can find a way to work together. And that had been from one of the businesses I started many years ago that was in the paintball industry, of all things, in the 1990 or so. And so I saw the importance of policy in that, and then I started to apply that in the cannabis industry. And I got very fortunate in that many of my friends and relationships here in Nevada when I moved here were involved in in politics and political strategy and political operations. And so I started to work with them to understand how that would affect a new industry like this. And obviously it has been critical to be able to be on the side of helping to set rules and set regulations rather than being affected by the changing rules and not knowing where they're going to lead. So that's, again, that's sort of the in-between period. And then since then, in 2010 to 2012, I then started to work on things like being the founding chairman of the first ever chapter of the National Cannabis Industry Association, which is the largest trade association for the industry in the world. And I was the first ever chairman of the first ever chapter for that. And that also, once again, put me at the nexus of policy and political realities in business. I then ended up advising the state of Pennsylvania as they implemented their medical marijuana rules. I advised the state of Oregon through a couple of its different panels in its implementation of regulations, advised the some jurisdictions around the country as they looked at regulation, the country of Costa Rica through some of its elected officials, and then most recently been advising the country of Mexico through some of the major stakeholders there on policy issues and the importance of effective regulatory frameworks.
Well, Leslie, you're a very interesting guest, and we're going to have you back on and schedule more time for you, because unfortunately for this segment, we are out of time. But I would like to thank everybody again for joining us at The Budding Report. Please go to our website, thebuddingreport.com. Look up any of our guests. Leslie would love to hear from you and talk to you. So please do look up his phone number, contact our guests. You can get any of our past guests on the site. But thank you for, again, joining us, both Leslie and Thomas. We'll be back next time when our guests include our sponsor, Jessica and Denise again. Good to have them on from Canna World Expo, and Thomas's partner, Graham McGee of Bloom Holdings. So thank you for joining us. You make a wonderful 2021 and have a great day. Bye.